Welcome to the sixth lesson in our Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council CCAC 1.0 training series. This is CCAC Lesson 1.6 in the series. In our previous lesson, we discussed how the powers that be have changed the polity to remove the people's authority to solve local problems by incrementally and subtly adding top-down layers of authority. Eventually, a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object happens: to undermine unalienable rights that evinces a design to reduce the good people under an absolute despotism and starts to alarm some people that things are not right and that something needs to be done. However, in most cases, at that point, little can be then done. There has been very little thought put into how to prevent abuses from continuing. Those bearing the brunt of abuse usually end up reacting through protests, activism, or political response. But those in charge continue to be in charge. They may be kind and gracious for a while, or they might rise up to deal with the problem forcefully and without regard for the injured parties. These top-down solutions eventually leave many people disappointed, discouraged, or even hurt, injured, or dead. The better alternative is subsidiarity. We start solving the problems from the bottom up by restoring the ability of people to work together locally to solve the community's problems. To do this, we must make sure that the individuals involved are given the ability to participate, to know what is going on in a comprehensive manner, and to have a way to do so, a mechanism that is recognized by the entire community. With subsidiarity, the people themselves shall be vested with the authority to do what needs to be done because they act locally. The rules of engagement, the system design, and the way that the people are organized, trained, and disciplined is very clearly explained and carried out by everyone involved. That is the way things ought to be. The ultimate solution is to give the local community the tools of subsidiarity to learn, implement, then practice freely and openly. We, the good people, must organize ourselves into a body politic in every local community to implement caucuses through that set of principles and forms most likely to affect our safety and happiness, as the Declaration of Independence tells us. Subsidiarity is more efficient, less costly, more likely to allow people to get along and communicate effectively. With the increases today in what the founders warned against, the threat of absolute despotism, we need to have a way to protect ourselves locally through subsidiarity. But let us also realize that such a mechanism has other benefits. When the people become involved locally to solve local problems, they begin to be proactive in their communities. The people start working together to prevent disasters before they happen. Take, for example, a hurricane heading toward Florida. In the current scheme of things, people go about their business doing very little preparation. The only forward planning is done by top-down emergency management agencies. Few citizens even know what those plans are that have been created. No one is prepared. Families don't generally put together evacuation plans. Businesses don't have well-thought-out strategies to protect inventories. Everything is reactive when danger strikes. Can physical, economic, and social damages from such inevitable events be mitigated through organized, trained, and disciplined community preparedness with the means to interact and cooperate from the bottom up in a natural, safe, and proper governmental capacity within local communities? Does such a model exist in our history that society can learn from and put into practice that provides better public safety and health throughout a community mindset? The answer to both of these questions is yes and yes, based upon the principle of subsidiarity. There are benefits to working locally to protect our environment, to contain the threat of terrorism, to assure that we have adequate drinking water when chemicals accidentally get dumped into our water supply, to assist stranded motorists on a highway during an ice storm, to have economic alternatives when our dollar is unstable, to protect neighborhoods against roving gangs, and many more levels of safety and security with options that are nearly infinite. All of this is possible when we take a simple idea, subsidiarity, and lay a foundation with this principle and corresponding form, a mechanism, across the local communities of America through the caucuses being implemented everywhere. Dr. Edwin Vieira Jr. teaches us the following about subsidiarity. In any catastrophic emergency, the fundamental problems will be to find out what has gone wrong, to identify what needs to be accomplished in order to correct the situation, to determine what personnel, equipment, and other resources are available to do the job, to specify how, when, and by whom it should be done, and then to perform the necessary work under proper supervision. This process will require accurate and timely information that can be gleaned only on the spot. Indeed, information that will have to be created on the spot by people intimately familiar with the local situation. Success in such an endeavor will therefore require subsidiarity, decentralization of power and responsibility, recruitment, mobilization, organization, and deployment of forces from the bottom up, and reliance on the common sense and patriotism of ordinary Americans to use the constitutional concept, federalism, not Führerism. In such circumstances, Führerism will prove to be a recipe for cooking up immediate chaos and serving up ultimate disaster. So, to preserve the continuity of government, Americans can rely upon the true source of sovereignty, we the people, both the separation and the cooperation of powers among the states, Congress, and the President under constitutional standards, federalism, control over and participation in operations from the bottom up, the subsidiarity and decentralization necessary for rational economic calculation, avoidance of entanglements with martial law, and the Constitution's assurance that their course of action is not simply expedient, but is necessary to the security of a free state. In addition, reliance on the proper mechanism to implement subsidiarity would guarantee a real permanent continuity of government in actual practice, because this mechanism in all 50 states are not subject to being entirely knocked out by any conceivable attack or natural disaster, short of an epidemic that eradicated most of the human race. Applying federalism, subsidiarity, self-reliance, and concern for the general welfare of their communities, the mechanism will demonstrate a compassionate constitutionalism that will exceed in scope and effectiveness anything that could be accomplished either through liberal politicians' bureaucratic welfare schemes or through conservatives' trickle-down economics. The 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights is an important statement of the principles of federalism and subsidiarity. Applying the 10th Amendment to how subsidiarity operates is good practice. Caucus promotes subsidiarity and works to re-implement it for our security and safety in our local communities while we still have time to do so. This completes the sixth lesson entitled CCAC 1.6. Thank you for listening to this sixth segment as part of our CCAC 1.0 series in our national orientation. Please join us for the next session in this series as we continue to unfold the Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council story. This is the extraordinary process in which CCAC will successfully provide continuity of government of, by, and for the people. In our next lesson, CCAC 1.7, we will go on to explain further details of how we implement our Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council. If you realize the necessity of revitalizing constitutional polity at the state and local level, please join this cause by going to www.ccac-us.com and registering on our official website. Take Pre-Quiz 1.0. We then urge you to work through the entire CCAC 1.0 series to understand the continuity of essential information we provide to help us all be on the same page. Then, upon passing the post-quiz with a perfect score, you will be directed on how to take the next step in the process of becoming a member of this vital organization. Please don't shortchange this process. Listen to and study the CCAC 1.0 material carefully. If you have questions or concerns about what you are learning so far, or issues affecting your community, please refer to the links connected to this lesson or contact the person who gave you this information. We extend our best wishes from the Citizens Constitutional Advocacy Council.